Welcome back, vaqueros, and as promised from my last Warzone video, here is part 2 of the best shotguns to use in Warzone, and this is going to be the top 5 overall, and you might see a little bit of overlap from some of the ones I covered the last one. If you remember the last one, I did the top 5 high-risk, high-reward shotguns. Those were builds that are kind of niche, but they have incredible time to kills, but they're also kind of limited by maybe magazine size or the rate of fire, like the Jak-12 only has about 8 rounds with the slugs, so things like that kind of keep them in check, and those are generally more suited for people who want to be, I don't know, very aggressive, but are willing to take a risk, and they're not very good maybe in trios and quads. So these particular shotguns are going to be more suited for trios and quads, and solos and duos. Kind of overall, what are some really great shotguns to use that are just solid? They may not excel in crazy time to kill or range or anything, but they're just solid overall because they have good damage overall, and they have good range and things like that. Now, you may see some overlap and a few that come from the other list, but in general, you're going to see a few that are more suited, like I said, for trios and quads, and just are a little bit easier to use in my opinion because you don't have to be aiming down sights, for example, all the time. So for this video, in no particular order, let's go over what I think are some of the most solid and the best top 5 overall shotguns to use for any players out there in pretty much any mode.
Shotgun, you pussy!
Starting with the first one, of course it's an overlap from the last video, we actually have the Gracey Auto. That's right, I said it, the Gracey Auto is in my opinion one of the best. And yeah, I know, this is going to be a build that's limited by its magazine, basically only 5 rounds. But just like if you watched last video, you'll know why this thing is such a monster, and I honestly don't think it's that bad. The nice thing about it compared to a lot of other high-risk, high-reward shotguns is that this one, it's kind of spammable, right? You just basically get up in someone's face and spam the hell out of it, and you're basically guaranteed a kill. That is sort of the easy part about it. The hard part is the range and the magazine size, of course, and all those things that keep it in check. But it's not that difficult to use in the sense that it's just spam away and bam, you get a kill. But like I said, there's other things keeping it in check. So what made this thing so great? Well, if you remember in the last video, I talked about it. If we use Buck and Slug and we have extra pellets, we get 2 extra pellets back. Buck and Slug will usually take away 4 pellets and add a slug, but with extra pellets, we get 2 pellets back. So that helps this thing be a lot more consistent. And Buck and Slug is essential for really maintaining that damage. And this thing can actually 3-shot kill. And if you combine the 3-shot kill potential with the rapid fire barrel, you can basically have a time to kill of about 416 milliseconds out to about that 3.6 meter range, and then you can 4-shot out to 7.6. So basically out to 7 meters, just unload your 5 shells and you're gonna get a kill. I mean, it's ridiculously effective. I really recommend you guys using this. I think Bear Pig used it recently, so shout out to him. He used it on his channel, and I can confirm that this thing is an absolute monster, and you really do need to check it out. And of course, you need to use discard and make sure that is on your class, because that is very important to make sure you reload as quick as possible since you only have 5 shells. But now I've talked about this one enough, let's get into the next one. Up next on this list, I have the Origin 12. This is one of those guns where it doesn't really excel in anything crazy ridiculous, but it's sort of an overall good baseline. It's just kind of awesome, and it's sort of the gold standard of the semi-auto shotguns because it's got good damage up close, a great rate of fire, and it's got a magazine. That's one of the reasons why I always pick this over the Gallo, is because the Gallo you have to reload each shell individually, and that can kind of get you killed in trios and quads. So with the Origin 12, you get basically the same rate of fire and therefore time to kill, at least if you're not using the reinforced heavy barrel on the Gallo. So for the Origin and the base Gallo, it's about 235 rounds per minute, meaning your time to kill for 3 shots, which is a 3-shot up close, is about 510 milliseconds, and that's a pretty dang solid time to kill. You're going to be shredding people pretty easily up close. Unfortunately, after that 4.1 meters out to about 7, it's going to be a 5-shot, so that's really kind of where it starts to be a little bit of a struggle bus, but it's okay because you have a ton of ammo and you can just kind of spam away to your heart's content. Now, this does have a 25-round drum mag, which is pretty hilarious to run and it looks cool, but the 12-round is probably just fine, and that way you can still reload really quick, but you're not way down and it's not super slow to aim down sights or to just move around the map in general. For this particular class, I usually use the Impaler barrel and the choke. You could use the monolithic suppressor if if you want to stay off the radar, but I like having a tight spread with this one in particular, but that's just kind of preference. If you want to stay off the radar, use a monolithic suppressor. Then the 5 milliwatt laser is essential for me because I'm very aggressive. I use no stock to get that movement speed and aim down sight speed, and then just the 12 round mag. Again, this is a very solid overall shotgun that you want to use, and it's just sort of good for a lot of different occasions and things. It's just great overall. So I would recommend giving this a shot, but you probably won't be blown away by how it can kill someone sometimes because it does take a little bit more shots out past that initial max damage range. But like I said, you can spam away, so it does have a place, in my opinion, in the shotgun meta. So with that, let's move on to the next one. Up next on the list, returning from the last list, is the Jak-12 with Dragon's Breath. Man, the Jak-12 is just everywhere, isn't it? The Jak-12 with Dragon's Breath is something that, even though it's limited by its 8-round magazine, with sleight of hand, the reload isn't bad, and honestly, you can make this gun work in trios and quads. I had a pretty okay time doing it. You just have to be pretty smart about it, but I think it should still work fine for a lot of beginner players because even though you have limited mag size, you can kind of spam this one and you don't have to really aim down sights. You can just kind of get away with spamming someone up close and be totally fine. The Jak-12 usually is a 4-shot, but the thing about Dragon's Breath is it makes it a 3-shot kill like it used to be at 250 health. And the nice thing about it is that 3-shot kill range can extend out to 8.9 meters if someone doesn't have EOD. So basically up to about 3.6, no matter if EOD is on or off. But if they do have EOD, out to about 8.9 meters in that next range, it'll take 4 shots. But if they don't have EOD, it'll take a 3-shot kill. And that means your time to kill is about 400 milliseconds, which is an insanely good time to kill, and I love it. It is so effective and so strong, and it's just a lot of fun to use. And like I said, you're limited by your mag size, but using sleight of hand, I'm telling you, it doesn't make it that bad. I still think this is overall one of the most solid shotguns to use because it just deletes people, and you still have 8 rounds, and you can definitely reload quick enough in between some engagements. Yes, it is a little bit of a learning curve, but I think it's totally doable, and since it is a spammy one, you can just kind of spam away to your heart's content for the most part, and you should be able to get a kill as long as you're close. That's why I think this gun definitely deserves to be in the top contenders for some of the best shotguns.
Safe zone relocated. Enemy advanced UAV. Occupation
You are
scan.
trash.
And yet another one returning from the last list I made is the combat shotgun. That's right, Origin 12 is really the only one that's different here. The next one will be different too, I promise, but the combat shotgun is still totally solid and easily a viable and great shotgun to use. This is overall, in my opinion, the now best pump action that we have because it's got a great fire rate compared to the Model 680, for example, and it still does the most damage out of the pump actions. It still does an insane amount of damage, so I really recommend giving this one a try. Yes, it doesn't have as much range as it used to, or as the Model 680, you're really only limited to like 5 meters for 2-shot kills, unless you're hitting headshots if you're a better player and you can really aim well. But it's still a menace to behold, and I just really like it, and it feels solid. And since it's a Vanguard shotgun, you have great mobility. It's probably got the best mobility in this class because, of course, you have the tape grip and the skeletal grip and all this stuff to make it, make you zoom by a lot quicker. So with my particular build, I do recommend using the 12 gauge and sawed-off barrel attachment. You can kind of get away with anything for the ammo in terms of reduced powder because that doesn't really hurt your fire rate if you use 12 gauge. And then you can also use buck and slug or incendiary. They all do a great amount of damage. I personally have been rocking reduced powder to get a little bit of a better fire rate, and so that's the build I recommend. And yes guys, this gun is still awesome. Just because it got nerfed, don't write it off, it's still great. So that is my next pick on this list. Now let's go into what I consider probably the best overall shotgun for just pretty much any occasion you can think of.
My treasure.
Oh, that shotgun is nasty. No way. What are you using?
And last on my list, and what I consider to be probably the strongest shotgun overall, we have the Jak-12, and that is with the base ammo, the buckshot. That's right, the Jak-12 is one of those guns that never really caught a nerf. It did get nerfed with a lot of the other spammy semi-auto shotguns, where it basically got its damage reduced to 96, and that's still the case here. It still does 96 damage per shot, and the thing about this one though is that you can have a 20-round magazine, and you can get a 4-shot kill, which is about a 600 millisecond time to kill, And so it's incredibly strong up close, and you have so much ammo, and it's full auto. I mean, when you have a full auto shotgun, it just makes things a lot easier in some ways. Yes, you have to keep it in check with damage, and I think this damage is totally fine. It doesn't need to be buffed or nerfed. 4-shot kill up close for full auto, totally fine. It still deletes people, and when someone has a shotgun in your face, there always tends to be this sort of panic moment and you kind of freak out. And so a lot of people will freak out when you start hitting them with the Jak-12. It still happens, I promise you. But basically, the thing about the Jak-2 is it's also got great range. Your 4-shot is out to about 3.3 meters. If you put on the Marauder suppressor and the influx barrel, it'll be about 4.4 meters. And then your 5-shot after that will be out to about 9.5 meters. So it's really good, and I'd say the strength is full auto with this 20-round mag. It is spray and pray galore, and it is perfect for taking out multiple people. And if you don't have enough ammo, just reload super quick. It's really easy to use. It's very beginner friendly, and advanced players too can really make good work with it with their movement skills. This is the class I recommend. In this particular build, I am also using the Merc Foregrip. You can use whatever grip you want. They all basically remove that open bolt delay, so I really recommend using that. It can make it a little bit slower if you're using a certain grip, but it's worth the trade-off. Not having that open bolt delay is sort of a godsend in my opinion, but you can trade it out if you don't really care. But the Marauder suppressor is basically the best barrel attachment, or rather the best muzzle attachment, and then the influx barrel is nice because you get more range without slowing you down. So that, in my opinion, is one of the best shotguns to use in Warzone overall. Is just the base Jak-12. It's just the gold standard. This gun is just catered to a lot of different situations, and I think it's just great overall. And this is just, like I said, the gold standard, the baseline for a good shotgun. So that is just about gonna do it. That is my top 5 best shotguns overall in Warzone. This was incredibly hard to make because there's a lot of choices and nuance to this discussion. It's not like I can just say this one's the best overall. It's really not that easy because you have so many different trade-offs and so many have different range and time to kill and all these barrels and all these attachments. It can be a little overwhelming. So I know we have things like the Street Sweeper and the Gallo that technically kill faster than some of these guns on this list, but they're limited because you have to reload shell by shell, and I don't think they're as useful as something like the Gracey Auto or the combat shotgun. But of course, that's up for debate. This isn't like I know everything and I'm right. I mean, this is totally up for debate. This list might change from person to person. This is just in my opinion. What are the best overall for whatever skill level? You don't have to be an amazing player. You don't have to be really this god tier movement skilled player like the other ones you might had to have with the high risk, high reward shotguns. But this list, great overall. Anyone can use these. They're really, really solid. They'll still delete people up close and you'll still freak people out and they'll panic. So again, like I said, that's my opinion. I would love to know what you guys think about some of these other shotguns. Are you disappointed with the list? Are you pretty happy with it? And with all that being said, guys, I will see you in the next video.
Movement. Moving.
Oh, what?